everybody. We're back with Truth Wins. This is our second episode, and Cindy Marsh is with me today. And if you don't know what Truth Wins is all about, it is that in the end, no matter what happens to you, God is working in it. And you know, even through our suffering, through our pain, He brings us to different places in our life, but it works for the good. So welcome, Cindy. We are so glad you're here. And we have just a few questions, and Cindy's gotten ready, and she's going to do fabulous. This is going to be amazing.
Thank you. Again, thanks for having me, Valarie. It means a lot, you know.
Well, you're welcome. And you know what, Cindy, one time my daughter described Cindy, and she said, when Cindy walks in the room, everybody feels better because it just makes you more calm. That was, I think it makes everybody more calm is really the truth. So that's very exciting. Okay.
It was very nice of Tori.
She was good. And if I didn't quote that quite right, it's close. Okay. I'll say that. Okay. I understand that there was a special someone who took you in when you were young.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about that story? Tell us about her.
Sure, absolutely. Years ago, my parents were, of course, in the military. Both, and to say about my parents, they were very young, didn't really come from the best family, very broken homes, but they also were my biggest heartbreak, sadly. When my parents were both in the military, they had their own issues, and with that come consequences to me as a young child. And so as a little bit before I was 18 months old, at the time we were living in the barracks in Germany. Both my parents, of course, Army. We moved overseas, and they had met a wonderful man there named David. Max Skinner was his name. And he hadn't seen me in several days. Well, at the time, my mom and my dad had, you know, a lot of marital issues. And long story short, my mom actually fled the country and moved back to the States.
Oh, wow.
And she tried to take me with her, but sadly, my dad had stole my passport, and that wasn't, of course, going to happen. And so she had left me in his custody at the time. Well, Max hadn't seen me in a while, and it was really sweet because just recently he had shared with me on how I was like his little favorite little girl, he would call me. Every time he would see me, he would try to take me as much as possible because I always put this smile on his face as a young man, you know, being in the military. And so he hadn't seen me or my dad. And, you know, of course, being their friend, he, of course, was concerned. And he had went over to their barracks and to their house that they were living at the time and went knocking on the door. Wasn't getting an answer, but next thing you know, he had heard, you know, a lot of screaming, and it sounded like a little kid, and it was me.
Wow.
And so he couldn't get in, and so he went and got, of course, supervisors or military personnel to come and let them into the apartment, and they had actually found me in a closet. I had been abandoned there for 2 days.
Oh, my goodness.
And my dad actually went on a bender. Went drinking for a few days and stuck me in there. They had found me. I was malnutrition, covered, of course, as any child would be in their own mess. And they ended up actually taking me away from my parents. Well, again, this is where Max comes kind of into the picture. He had actually had so much care for me as that little girl that he didn't want to see me go to just anybody. And so he had reached out to his mother. Her name is Monica Skinner. I actually call her Umi, which is Uma in German. It's Uma technically, but I always called her Umi, and it just stuck. I'm still 42 and I still call her that.
It's okay.
And he had said, you know, this girl just really is a piece of my heart, and I would really love for you to help me with this girl. I don't want to see her just go with anybody. Would you be able to help take her in? And of course she did. And I had actually lived with her from about 18 months old till I was about 9 years old, where again, things had changed in her life, and she unfortunately couldn't care for me at that time. And, you know, those things, of course, you know, changed after that, and the story continues on in another path. But that's how I met her. And she really was a huge impact to me and taught me a lot of the traditional things that I have now in my family.
That's
and
cool.
We still have a relationship to today. So, and I'll always be thankful for her, because in that love, she didn't have to. And she took an innocent child that she didn't even know and cared and loved for me and gave me a life and, something more than, most people get. So.
Right. Do you remember that?
I really don't. There's only a couple memories that I remember, and that's my parents fighting. I kind of get those triggers sometimes. And I had actually heard from my mother. She had testimonially shared with me that my dad would purposely wake me up when they would fight. And, he was also very physically abusive with her so that I would witness those things. And sadly,
goodness.
I remember that, vividly sometimes.
Oh, wow. So that is a memory.
Yeah.
I just wondered because, you were small, but still that's.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're talking about this. So explain what it was like to grow up in your house, both ways. I mean, we just kind of talked about this already, but
sure.
What happened, what it was like to grow up with is it Umi? Is that how you say it?
Yeah.
Umi. Okay.
So living with Umi, she was amazing, very loving. She is a person that can't say no to anyone, and she'd go out of her way to help out anyone. She just is the kindest heart in that way. So whenever she wasn't able to care for me anymore when I was 9, I actually had to go back and live with my mother, which again, I had just recently learned in August, being 42 years old.
This last August?
Yeah, this past August, there's a part of the story I was never aware of. So I was told by Max and his wife, Jeanette, he had met her when I was actually living with Umi. They actually wanted to adopt me whenever I was little. And my mom actually gave up her rights to me, which was hard to hear that, especially because I went to go live with my mom when I was 9 years old. And I think that's where a lot of the dysfunction after that came into place. But to learn that my dad is the one that actually refused to allow Max and his wife to adopt me, it was because of those actions and him finding me in the closet that day. My dad got kicked out of the military and he punished him for that. And so he would never sign over that right. But a lot of memories, they were so kind to me. And going from having that loving dynamic and that support and tradition to being in, you don't know where you're going to sleep. And that's how it was probably for the first year with my mom. My mom, again, was in a really bad place.
Now, was this in the States?
This was back in the States.
Okay.
When I was living with Umi, my mom was living in El Paso, Texas. And sadly, she got caught up with the wrong people. And in that came with side effects. And with that being said, she had to choose to either leave privately and sneak out of there to get away from the people that she was around, or it was probably going to be her demise, unfortunately. So she, again, Umi had reached out to her and said, listen, like, you and Eddie need to make a decision. I can't raise your daughter. Unfortunately, this is the situation I'm in. I can't obligate and take care of her anymore. Like, you guys haven't helped me in the past 7-8 years. I need you to step up and one of you raise her. And so my mom said yes. And so she did what she could and gathered some money together, made those arrangements, and we moved actually to Missouri at the time, whenever I was 9 years old. And we went to Theodosia, Missouri.
Was she in the Army still?
No.
Okay.
No, she was not.
Yeah.
And so that first year with her, we really didn't have a place to live. So it was living in motels or living with family members that she hadn't been in contact with since she was a kid, and living in an extra room or renting a room. And so there just was no stability.
Right.
And I think my mom ended up being just my biggest heartbreak, because I just wanted that relationship and that connection with her. But I was always that reminder of her past. And so it was very dysfunctional, and still is. And I'm 42 years old, sadly.
Right.
You
So
know.
just moving around, like.
Yep.
Yeah.
Living in poverty. She did the best that she could.
Right.
Again, not having any family or not having any support. She did what she could. And, we really didn't have much, lived in, low income housing. Birthdays were given to us by the state, and holidays. And so just, again, as a young kid, going from having structure to nothing, it was really hard, transitioning to that. And then again, being with her, love started becoming more transactional. So the more that I would do things would make her happy, And then that's where, things changed for me the older that I got, and I fell into some traps and,
Right. Because you were trying to make people happy, right?
make her especially.
Especially her.
Yeah.
I have to say this. Cindy is my really good friend, and I really personally wanted to hear this story because when she gives it, you notice how she's not condemning. And I appreciate that because that would really be easy to do in this situation. Yes. And so that's an amazing trait, very forgiving. Think that shows. That's why I sort of say that shows that God is living with you. Exactly.
Yeah.
And living in you more than that.
Yeah.
So that's amazing. So tell me then, okay, so you lived with your mom until you were?
Until I graduated.
Oh, okay.
High school. So from 9 till I was pretty much 18.
And moving like that the whole time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
We lived in Ava until we moved from Theodosia then to Ava, Missouri, because she had some connections there and some family members to try to help her out. And then we moved to Lebanon when I was actually 14. She had met, of course, my current stepfather, and they rekindled a romance from high school, and she ended up, he was here. And so we ended up moving here, and this is where I graduated from.
Okay. So okay. So from just, I just asking, well, here we're going to go on with this anyway, because here's the thing.
Yeah.
So when you're 18, then are you staying there just as we go on here? Did you stay with your mom or
no?
So you moved out then?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
I got a scholarship to OTC.
Oh, wow.
So moved to Springfield, moved in with a dear friend, Nicole, still my friend to today. She's cool. A huge inspiration to me, love her to death. And again, at that time, it was more of the freedom, thinking, okay, if I get away, maybe I'll be free and I'm not going to be in this toxic environment. And what I ended up finding out is I was seeking love in all the wrong places because of the biggest issue I had, which was a fear of intimacy. Like I mentioned before, relationships for me, the older I got, became more transactional, because the way I thought about it was, if I do everything right, if I do what they ask, kind of people please, I guess, in a way, there's nothing that they could, they won't leave. They'll always be there because I'm perfect and I do everything right and I do and say.
Wish that'd work, right?
I know it does not.
Right. No, it does not.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah. Actually, I shouldn't say I wish that would work, because we know. So during that time, I'm going to ask this because that's what I'm thinking. So did you meet Christ at that time?
So no, I didn't. A couple years later, I got actually invited to go to, I believe it was called Real Life Church or Life Church or something like that in Springfield, by a friend. Her name was Brandy.
Okay.
And again, I knew of God and I knew of Jesus growing up, because a couple times I had went, to like Bible study with friends, but my mom was not, and still today does not believe in God. I think she's very bitter because of her life. And again, most people that are hurting, they feel that way, sadly. And I always try to encourage her to let him in, and it would change everything, the trajectory of her thoughts and her life. And, so I ended up actually going, and I just, I felt really connected there. But it wasn't enough for me to change my life, because I didn't allow God to be present at that time. Even though the Holy Spirit was calling me that day, I still relied on myself, thinking, okay, I can do this, I can fix this, no, I'm fine.
Right.
Didn't work.
Which isn't that what a lot of us do? Because we 100%. Think we're supposed to do something to earn salvation. We can't do anything to earn salvation. And that's why truth wins, because it's that's so empowering to realize that there's nothing you can do. So let's, because he did it all for us.
100%.
Okay. So as we go forward, you can tell us more about that when you ask Christ. Okay. So how's God shaped your life in these circumstances?
Sure. So my biggest struggle, which took me a very long time to figure out, it actually wasn't until it was my husband and I, well, he was currently my boyfriend. So we first started dating back when I was 29 years old. And, the biggest thing for him is he said, we have to go to church. Like, that's going to be a big stipulation for me. I've always been a Baptist, and, I'd really love for us to go to church together as a family. Because again, at this time, I'm, a single mom with 2 kids. He's a single dad with 2 kids. And so coming together as a family unit, that was going to be the foundation. And that's what he always wanted. And he said, I will not do any other. And so I said, okay, well, let's look around at some churches. And something clicked for me. Years ago when I worked for Shoney's, Matt Taylor had come in with his wife, Jennifer, and they had their little ones.
Shoney's.
They were, when
remember that.
Shoney's.
Yeah.
So I was the waitress years ago when I moved back from college. And I remember him coming in, and he was always so friendly. And I was like, I said, let's give this First Baptist Church a shot. I really would like to see,
what it is.
I don't want to take the kids, but just you and I go when we don't have them one weekend. Let's see what it's about and see if this is where we're meant to be.
Yeah.
So we go in, and I remember Matt talking about, it was the bags of grain, and it was about how you're carrying all this weight and all this burden and all this pain, and you never release it and trust and let God, right?
Right.
Girl, I sat in that pew just crying my eyes out. And I knew at that moment, like, he saved my life. And I gave my life to Christ that day in that service.
That Christ did, you're saying, right?
He saved my life.
Yes.
Yeah. And he used Matt Taylor as a vessel in that moment to speak to me and gave me the message that I needed to hear, to realize you've lived this life of brokenness for 29 years and you've got to change. And one of the biggest things for me was intimacy was probably the hardest barrier I had to break through, because after years of neglect and abandonment, you really don't feel like you're worth anything. You're more like a pebble in someone's shoe and a burden, Yeah. And so I had to break down that wall that I built. Right. Even though those things were given to me, I put that there to protect myself. So then if somebody turned their back and walk away, I could handle it, right? Because I was strong and I was Cindy and I can do anything, right?
Yeah. No. Protection, you think?
No.
Yes.
So breaking down that wall was a very tender time. It took me close to 6 years till I was about 35 to really take brick by brick, dissect it, and really come to terms of, why did I even put it there? Who helped me put it there? And forgiveness.
Right.
And forgiving those people and myself for the life that I had created. And long story short, like, I couldn't have done it without God, and it was the most freeing experience, but also the most heartbreak at the same time, because it's kind of, you're trying to relearn yourself again and understand who you're supposed to be and who you could have been. And then the purpose now that God has planned. And this is just the beginning.
Right. It's truly being born again.
Yeah, 100%.
Because now I'm not who I was, but I'm going to be who God wants me to be. Yeah. And he's changing me. This is so cool. Yeah. And this is what I love about Truth Wins. Because the truth was that you on your own couldn't do it.
No.
And you would not have been able to, but what Christ can do is transform the whole thing.
Amazing.
And it's amazing. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yep.
So, gosh, I wish we had some more time, because this is, but we got to do it. We got to get the time.
I know.
So what truths have you taken with you that are still working for you today? Job, relationships, family, all those things.
I'd say the biggest one for me is going to be probably work. I was mishandling my life and work, trying to find my identity, seeking other people's approval, and work was a huge leverage for that. I worked in a company for 17 years that I went up to the next level and the next level and the next level and got myself all the way to the top, right?
Right.
And what I realized,
achievement,
100%, putting in the work, showing what I could do. But what I realized is that that's not what God called me to do.
Okay, there you go.
And I was putting all of this into something for worldly recognition, getting the world's approval. And what I learned, the more and more I gotten closer to God, the more I realized the darkness I was actually in, and the place I was at was that way too. And so I remember even just, I think the biggest step forward for me in that was I was an auditor at the time. I had went into this branch in Illinois, And I really had the Holy Spirit at the time really pulling on me to talk about how Christ changed my life, you know,
Wow.
and I opened up to these two women. They were very receptive. And the younger one, you could just see she was very intrigued. And she was literally just hanging on to every word that I said.
Yeah.
And I never had that before. So it was just kind of like, okay, Lord, I trust you, whatever
Holy
you're
Spirit's
doing.
working with
Don't
her
make me mess up here.
Yeah,
And so,
great.
anyways, what I didn't realize at the time, she was asking me these questions, and she had talked about, you know, I just don't know. I've made so many mistakes, you know, I'm not lovable. And, you know, I expressed her, you know, that's how I felt, you know, and it was like God put me in front of her to kind of share my testimony and just that journey to open up her mind that, again, through him, anything is possible, and that he loves you and you've never been alone. He's been there the whole time.
How exciting was that?
I know.
That was great.
And this is the kicker was, I remember coming home, I had left that day, felt great. I then again, as life, we all go through our trials. Because again, I don't think if you don't go through trials, then you got to kind of question, you know, the closer we get to God, the more that we have. And God said it very clearly, you know, that we are not going to endure, not going to just endure happiness. We're going to endure the struggle, you know, and he told that to his 12 disciples, you know, many times in the New Testament.
In this world, you'll have tribulation.
100%.
Right.
And this is what I was going through. It was a really hard time. And I was coming back from Oklahoma, and I remember questioning myself and just saying, you know, what are you trying to do with me? I don't feel good enough. I went back into those thoughts, right? We easily do that. It's like you take 10 steps forward and then 100 back sometimes. And next thing you know, my phone, a text message goes off, and I pull over. I had to stop at the gas station anyways. And so I pull over, I read it. It was this girl. And mind you, months has went by. Like I, you know, sent her a couple messages, sent her a couple, you know, things and scriptures and awesome things I was listening to, and a couple podcasts, you know, in between the months. But she said, you know, I've never really shared this with you, but you saved my life. And I said, I didn't save your life.
Good job. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
God, God, you know. And she's like, I was contemplating on killing myself, and I was going to do it.
When you talked to her.
Right before I talked to her.
Oh my goodness, yes.
And so you may think that you're not good enough, or you may think that the story that you have isn't worth anything, but it can help save someone's life. And so share it, embrace it. And at that point I knew, okay, if that's all I was meant to do in this life was to tell my testimony and share that with that girl, then okay.
Well, and here's the deal. It isn't all you were meant to do, because I know, gosh, we don't have time for everything here.
Sure.
But what I'm saying is, I also know that Cindy's raised some great kids and
you.
some wonderful, she's had a lot of impact on those kiddos too. The stepchildren and your, you know, she counts them all the same.
Yeah.
But and grandbaby. So that's, we love grandbabies, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's amazing too. And so that's what's so cool about Truth Wins here. Mm-hmm. But we're talking about that Jesus didn't only say we'd have suffering. He said, take heart, because I've overcome the world. Yeah. And he overcame in that girl's life. And that's that's just a start.
I know.
There's other, you know, I'm sure your kids have come to know Christ. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, and who else? We don't know who we're going to influence going 100%. Forward. But suffering, Jesus tells us that if we hang in there, if we persevere, that we're going to get that crown of life.
Absolutely.
And we should count it all joy when we suffer.
100%.
But I wish we had more time, Cindy, because this is awesome. But I want to say this. This has been incredible.
Thank you.
Whoever is listening, if you are having that problem, you can get a hold of us right here at Truth Wins. I have an email. It's called valhowe@earthlink.net. That's an old one. But I also have valhowe.com. So you can get a hold of us also you can message us at Code Red Ministries, the Facebook page also. So we would love to have you do that. I know Cindy would love to have you do that too. Tell us if you want to know more about Truth Wins, because we know the truth, and he is a person. Yeah. And we want you to know him too. And thank you for being here. This is an awesome story. We may have to have Cindy back again to tell us some more,
Part 2, right?
That'd be it. That would be amazing.
I got a lot of sharing. You and I both are blessed with the gift of gab. We work well together.
We can do that. We can do this. Yeah, that's why we have to have questions, like, because we have to, we got to hone
Structure.
it in, right?
It's always good.
It's always good. So we'll see you next time on Truth Wins. Seriously, can't wait to see you back. Let us know how you're liking it. We would love to hear from you. See you soon.